What's up, guys? I'm Jared.
I'm Ben.
This is Low Level Lounge.
This is our first episode, one of hopefully many episodes, and the way we do this is we have different categories of our episodes. This is a cinema category where we're going to be talking about what we thought about Spider-Man Homecoming.
Before we jump into it, I want to explain how we review our movies. We have a 5-tier system here, the first tier being the worst of the worst, tier 5 being the best of the best. Let me give you just a brief explanation of these tiers. So tier 1, this is a gross Saturday morning beer shit. This isn't good, this is bad, this is awful. There's nothing redeeming about this. You regret every decision you made that led you up to this point and question all future decisions. It's awkward for you and everybody around you, and above all, it stinks and you really need to take a shower afterwards. Brings us up to tier 2. This is a prostate exam with a good result. So a guy poked around in your poop chute. That's not good, that's bad, that's no fun at all. But everything came back A-okay. So it's awkward, it hurts, but it could have been a lot worse. Brings us up to tier 3. This is an over-the-pants hand job in a bar bathroom. This isn't the best thing ever. I mean, it could be a lot better, but it's fine. It's fine. You don't feel like you wasted your time, and you're pretty satisfied. Tier 4, this is an ice-cold beer after a long, hard day. This is almost perfect. This is excellent. I mean, there are a couple things that best it, but they're few and far between. And it just leaves you with a feeling of, fuck yeah. And then tier 5, the top of the mountain, the best of the best, simply orgasmic. This one's pretty self-explanatory. You better bring a change of pants because this movie's going to make you come. So with that said, let's jump into it. Let's talk about Spider-Man Homecoming. Directed by John Watts, starring Tom Holland, Michael Keaton, Zendaya, featuring Robert Downey Jr., Jon Favreau. Give you a little bit of the plot here. Movie opens up immediately after the invasion of New York and the events of the Avengers. You see Adrian Toomes and his guys cleaning up the wreckage. All of a sudden, damage control shows up, kick them out, say they're taking over, and a frustrated Adrian Toomes takes this opportunity to salvage some of the alien technology and becomes kind of a weapons trader. This then flashes forward to the events after Civil War. Peter Parker is in New York, still Spider-Man, and he's kind of bored. You know, he's waiting for the next big mission, waiting for that call from Robert Downey Jr. or from Tony Stark.
Yeah, it's like a typical kid.
Waiting for that call from Tony Stark, waiting for that call from Happy Hogan. But, you know, Tony Stark kind of wants him to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And he's wanting to be more in it, and it focuses him kind of trying to stop Adrian Toomes. And I gotta just start by saying Spider-Man's my absolute favorite superhero ever, so what I say about the movie you might have to take with a grain of salt. I might be a little bit biased.
It's very biased.
So you might have to rely on Ben's opinion a little more.
I kind of don't have a favorite. My favorite's Batman, but that doesn't count for Marvel, so we don't have to worry about that when it comes to Marvel movies.
But yeah, so I really like this movie. There's a lot of stuff to like, and I want to start with Tom Holland and really the young cast in general. Just very, very energetic, very believable. I would say the most believable Peter Parker, just because you can believe this is a high school kid. You really can, and everybody else in the movie, all the young cast.
I mean, it's a good portrayal of what if I were Spider-Man, or if he was Spider-Man, or anybody was Spider-Man. If you're sitting in school and you have something that you love to do, that you love to do every single day after school. All you're going to do is sit in school and just count the minutes and the seconds until you can get home to do that thing. So imagine that if you were a superhero. That's what Peter Parker's going through. He's sitting in school, he's tapping his foot, he's checking the time, whenever no one's looking, he's on YouTube looking up clips of the Avengers and stuff like that, and stuff that he did to just kind of like get himself psyched up for it. It's one of those things where the second that bell rings, he's out there, he's in an alley ripping off his clothes, he's ready to be Spider-Man. That's exactly how everybody would be, so it makes complete and total sense. It's just so believable. He just seems like a kid who happens to be Spider-Man.
Yeah, absolutely. And go to the opposite, Michael Keaton, the villain in the movie. Kind of a knock on the Marvel Cinematic Universe is they don't have a lot of strong villains. I think Michael Keaton's the best Marvel villain since Loki.
All right. I believe he's also the best Batman, but that's for another time.
Yeah, I mean, he's played for both teams now, not in a gay way.
He did a great job. I mean, it's...
Yeah, I really think he's the best villain that Marvel has produced since Loki. He nails it. I mean,
he was scary at times. There was times you're sitting there, you're like, man, if I was Peter, I'd be worried too.
yeah, he seemed
Powers or not, I'd be sitting there like, damn, this guy's tough.
The thing about his portrayal is that it was so calm. He
was like sociopathic almost. He had this kind of this cool, relaxed way about him, his demeanor. He never had no one's ever gonna catch me. You know, I'm Vulture. That's just the way it is.
He never had to raise his voice.
I do the work.
Had to. He didn't have some booming voice.
Exactly. He didn't have to shriek at people or get physical. He would just look at somebody and in a soft accent just be like, "Don't do that." And those guys, okay. I mean, they were terrifying.
Another thing, the comedy in the movie was perfect and felt perfectly Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
I think funniest Marvel movie, right up there with both the Guardians of the Galaxy. Just, I mean, there was nonstop. There was never a dull moment in this movie, whether it was action scenes, whether it was comedy, whether it was whatever. It was hilarious. It was hilarious at times.
There was so many scenes that just come out of nowhere. It's a lot like it has that Marvel humor where 1 minute something's going on and you're like into it and you're like everything's serious, and then something pops up and it's just like and it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel weird. They're not just like, it's not like a little kids movie where they got to make everything silly and make everything weird. No, it's just like comes out of nowhere and it hits you and it's just hilarious. You know, someone says something or someone does something physical or the expression they make. I mean, there's even times in this movie where they don't say anything. They just make a face and you're like, that's yeah. I know how that feels.
There are a lot of parts where the whole theater was legitimately like,
oh yeah, everyone's laughing, big belly laughs.
Another super awesome part, probably my favorite, just looking back at the movie, was all the Easter eggs they sprinkled throughout it.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
good job.
we're not going to get into any of them. We'll save that for you when you go see it. But it's almost a movie that I was like thinking of stuff days after and clicking like, oh my gosh, that's...
Yeah, it seemed like one of those movies where you watch it a couple of times and you pick up on all those little tiny things. That thing on it, Marvel's really good with those kind of details. They sprinkle those things in without being like, oh hey, look everybody, this is Iron Man. They're going to mention Tony Stark and they're going to say it 1,000 times and say, hey, isn't that Iron Man? Like they're not going to like throw it in your face. No, it's
very subtle, but...
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, I know that voice, like, or I know that person. Holy crap!
Makes it rewatchable because maybe you'll see, especially with Spider-Man, maybe you'll see something, you watch it the second time and you say, I didn't even notice that the first time, but it's right there in front of me. So I really like all the Easter eggs that were sprinkled throughout.
Like they mention like a character's name, and then if you're like a true fan, you go, oh man. God, did you hear that?
Yeah, there are a lot of...
That's so-and-so. Like but they don't like throw it in your face. They just throw it out there. Like they might read 20 names and that name's in here. You're like, whoa, what did he just say?
It was cool.
I heard that.
In the theater, a couple times, something would come up and you'd hear audible people go, oh,
yeah, dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you know who that is? Like they would whisper to each other about
so
stuff.
That was
a lot of that cool stuff.
And it just feels different. It feels true, like different than any other Marvel movie because it really feels like it's about Peter Parker as much as it is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like they're not competing for like.
Right. It's not just like there's filler. Like okay, he's in school for 10 minutes, and then there's an hour of just nonstop Spider-Man stuff. No, it's like in between. Like it's like him trying to sneak back into the house, and him like just stuff like that. That like it addresses all the problems you would have as Spider-Man. Like he, stopping. There's a part in it where it's not. I guess it's a spoiler, but there's a part in it where like someone steals a bike, like a thief, like just a run-of-the-mill daily thief takes something, and he stops the guy only to find out that it's actually the guy's bike, and he doesn't steal like anything. So like things like that, like mistakes and little issues, and like just things that people would do. I mean, I would do that. You know what I mean? Some guy's yelling at his wife, and I go beat the crap out of him just to find out that that's just how they talk to each other.
He's not a seasoned superhero. But yeah, I really loved this movie. I feel like I had to try to come up with some things that I didn't like, but I feel like I'm really nitpicking just to find something. But I will say I wasn't super crazy about the suit, not the design or anything, but first of all, one positive about the suit is I feel like this is the first like realistic Spider-Man suit because Tony Stark made it. Like in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and the Andrew Garfield, I was always like, how the hell did this broke
get that material
high school / college kid make that? But it's explained here because Tony Stark made it.
And it would really be hard too with him being like 16. Like, where the hell is he gonna get that money? He doesn't even have a job. Like, is he gonna ask Aunt May for it?
Yeah, but this one obviously, Tony Stark made it. But what I didn't like was all the tech in the suit. I mean, it definitely made for a couple really funny moments, but it didn't feel Spider-Man.
Like tech-wise, like not counting the web shooters, because he always had those. Yeah. He always had the web shooter with the cartridges. It's not organic like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. It's like, you know, legitimate machines on his wrists. Like the first ones are ones he made. The ones he uses now are like upgrade Tony Stark ones.
But there was too much, like even like in the like Iron Man style, like in
his
helmet.
Like heads up display, and like there was like a digital helper, kind of like Jarvis, like things like that, like things that Spider-Man doesn't need.
Yeah, it wasn't crazy. It just felt too Iron Man and not Spider-Man.
It was like Iron Man and Spider-Man's suit, whenever he was.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
not all the time. Just sometimes they would really get tech heavy, and you're like, okay, like what? So it's basically like the suit's doing it all for him, and he's not.
I mean, it definitely made for some funny moments. Though.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I could do. Like I said, I'm nitpicking just to find.
And it did help the plot. Like. There were times when he needed those things that he uses. You know what I mean? And those, and it kind of works too because it's a weird thing that he has all those magical little gizmos now instead of just basically himself. There has like you forget that he has it. So in a time when he uses it, you're like, oh yeah, he could use that. You know what I mean? Like he just kind of slips your mind that he's got that.
It's not like he never had any kind of, like the comics, he had a couple. I mean, he had a freaking Spider-Mobile, but, you know, it's just kind of too much. Just, and like I said, still just nitpicking a little bit. Another thing, not just a question that I had is, where was the spider sense? And since I read that the director had kind of come out and said that they already did a sequence in both of the first two movies where you see the spider sense and they didn't want to, you know, dive into that.
This isn't the same old origin where it's like you see him get bit by the spider turns him into it, and all the struggles and figuring out how he is and what works and all that. Now this is a Spider-Man that already knows he's Spider-Man. This stuff already happened. You don't see it happen. I mean, they gloss over it. But I think that they're relying on the fact that, like you were saying, that everybody already knows that story. Everyone knows how Spider-Man became Spider-Man. It's almost like people know how Batman became Batman. Like there's enough stuff out now to where it's common knowledge to know that Spider-Man got bit by a radioactive spider and that made him Spider-Man.
But I think they could have at least alluded to the fact that he had spider sense. I mean, he obviously doesn't have it because this isn't a spoiler because you saw this in the trailer, but in one of the trailers there's a part where he crawls into his room, takes his mask off, turns around, and his best friend Ned is sitting there. Like if if he had spider sense, he would
have known he was in there.
But you know, again, that's just a minor nitpick. And then one final thing is what is the timeline here? Because it was kind of assumed that the movies were happening as they came out. So the Avengers comes out in 2012. So my assumption was that that's the year that all the events of the Avengers happened. Well, then in Spider-Man at the very beginning, it flashes forward to 8 years after the events of the Avengers. So is this 2020? What year are we in?
Yeah, we're in the future, we're in the past. Is this the thing where you think, you know, did they pull like mixing universes here. Did they pull Harry Potter where you think it's present day, but it's actually 10 years ago that everything happened, so it comes full circle or whatever? Like, is that what's going on, or is it, you know?
Yeah, I feel like the movie, they kind of threw the timeline out of whack, but it's Marvel, they'll fix it, they know what they're doing.
And there's supposedly, I think there's videos out there, I remember scrolling through YouTube, there's videos people try and explain the timeline and how it's supposed to work, so maybe that glosses over it, but for a person who doesn't know all that history, you know, it's not.
But, I mean, yeah, all in all, at the end of the day, this was an incredible movie, and I'm going on our tier. It's orgasmic.
Absolutely.
Orgasmic. Go see it. And guys, if you like this video, leave a comment down below if you have any suggestions of future movies you might want us to review or future videos you want to see. Be sure to leave a like, and be sure to hit that subscribe button.
Low Level Lounge on Twitter. All words, no weird gaps, no weird nothing. It's just Low Level Lounge.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
That's how they get you.